Hi, this is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Okay, let us end up in LA. This is a good one to talk about, really cursory, but on what comes next. So in LA, we have a firefighter, and I think his second lawsuit against the city, third lawsuit maybe?
Second against the city, at least as far as my data. Second lawsuit against the city. Third lawsuit total in this area, because he initially filed suit against a black female firefighter who made some threats against him. He sued her to get a restraining order.
Right.
So that was that's what kicked it off. She apparently, at least according to what I've read in the complaints, she made some threats toward him, said she was going to blow him up or something to that nature, some sort of vague kind of thing. And that she'd beat, she said if he was a woman, that she would have beaten him up. So there was some sort of threat of harm, which, you change the facts a little bit. And, a guy says it to a gal, and now we're in a different scenario, but she says it to him. And he gets a restraining order, tries to get a restraining order. And then he initially had some retaliation against him. So he filed a suit. Now that was filed back in 2018. Okay, so he filed suit in 2018. And now he's filing this other suit alleging that the retaliation is continuing. He's been passed over for promotion and so on.
Well, and so he then lists about, staring at my bullet point, probably 15 different things. I'm not transferred to a station where I could get a better chance for promotion, or you're moving my shifts. I mean, all sorts of things. You're harassing me. People are saying things.
I'm sure the other firefighters would never say anything about this.
No, not at all. But he lists about 15 things which he says is happening to him because of this. So he'll get by a motion to dismiss, right? What's going to happen from here, and this is, again, just like a 101 lawsuit to see, and you and I've talked a couple times about the burden shifting analysis, which is really good. The burden now shifts to the employer to say, hey, maybe all these things are true, but there's a non-retaliatory reason for them, non-discriminatory reason for them. And the city's going to have to show that they acted blind as to his complaints, right, when they made all of these decisions, or they're just not true. So that's where this happens. And, we saw, it was last week, the week before, City won, saying, look, these things may have happened, but we had a reason to do every one of them. We denied him sick leave because of this, denied him vacation because of that. Here's the same thing. So I would urge, if we had to put a learning point here, I think I would urge, when you deny somebody a promotion, maybe, I'm sure you have good notes, right? But when you deny someone a transfer, you deny someone a request, are you making notes as to the reason why? And short of saying, well, yeah, because this person did something I didn't like and I'm retaliating against them, if you have a legitimate reason why you did it, write it down so that years later, or a year later, when they allege, well, this pattern's been going on for years, you can pull out your notes and say, listen, at the time I did it because of this. I think that's your best practice. And I know writing things down people don't love doing it. But I write everything down because I'm just not going to remember things. And you think you're going to remember things a year, 3 years later, you're not. You write everything down. If there is an accident, the moment an accident happens, write everything down you remember. Give it to your attorney, give it to whatever, but write it all down. Same thing here. You made a decision. You could have had 15 different reasons why you did these things. And it could have been John Smith was more deserving, or there wasn't an open shift, or somebody was more senior to you, so you didn't get this. But no one's going to remember it, right, years later. And then you're going to be like, I don't remember why I made that decision. And that's going to hurt you. So and then if you are the one who made those decisions, let's say you're a battalion chief or something, and you can't justify why you made that decision years later, now maybe you look like the racist. Maybe you look like the one who's retaliating. That's not good for your career. So when you make denial decisions, not any decision, buy some more 4x4s, right? When you make decisions, for example, one of the things I loved doing was I got to promote people, right? Our career staff to lieutenant. But when I didn't accept somebody, we wrote down the reasons, or we had a score chart, right? And that's what I prefer people use, points, right? And just save the points. Somebody got more points than you. That was it. Some were objective, some were subjective. In any event, write stuff down. Preserve your reasoning for decisions you think are going to get challenged, or you may have reasonably may get challenged.
You know, one of the things I think that officers have got to understand is that when someone alleges either retaliation or a complaint, and usually before we have retaliation, we have some sort of a complaint. In this case, he's alleging that he's being threatened and harassed, and so on. That person is different, and officers need to recognize that. Okay, and here's, I'll give you the metaphor. I think I use this metaphor a lot, but it's kind of like if Mrs. Smith lives in a fire-resistant building, concrete walls, concrete ceilings and floors. Okay, if she has a fire in that, we're gonna provide a certain service to her. She's Mrs. Smith. She lives in fire-resistant building. Mrs. Jones lives in a lightweight wood truss building,
and she's a hoarder.
And she's a hoarder. Okay, so now we're going to provide a service to her, but it's going to be a little bit different. And it's not because we don't like Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Jones, or we're providing a better service, but we recognize as part of our size up that there's a difference here. Okay, well, the same thing applies to people. And when someone has filed a complaint, whether it's sexual harassment, race discrimination, or whatever, we as officers, we've got to recognize that they're different. And maybe a comment by a colleague or a joke that takes place in the station related to that complaint now, maybe before they file the complaint, it's not that big a deal. It is a big deal once they've filed the complaint, because it looks like retaliation. And I know I was joking about this particular firefighter, but I can just imagine, you know, when I was with Providence, they would be torturing this guy in the firehouse.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you're really scared. You wouldn't get a restraining order. Boo, you must be really scared of her, right? You know, and they would be absolutely torturing this guy. And he'd be going, okay. And he's writing it all down. And no one is going to intervene in it.
Right.
And now he's got a case for retaliation. So I think that there's a training component here. That's my point. And our officers have got to recognize that when someone's filed a complaint, the company officers in particular, and the chiefs that are in the firehouses, got to stop that from happening. And, you know, at least recognizing the distinction is important.
You know, all these, you do them, I do them, you know, Frank Recruso, all these people do these leadership, right? Lectures and seminars and all that. And I'm wondering how much we all talk about the stand up and be the person to prevent, you prevent two things. You prevent the lawsuit, but you prevent that conduct from happening. And when you've been made, right, from internal, which is hard. So people from lieutenant, right, they're learned to be the boss, but they came up from among their friends. They did the same conduct. They made these stupid jokes. They harassed people. And now all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm observing something, but now it's on me if I don't stop it. And they either go right or left, right? They either stop it or they don't stop it, because I want to be their friend, not their boss. Or if I'm their boss, I'm afraid they're going to call me on the carpet for it because I was doing the same stupid stuff when I was just a firefighter.
But
and
very, very often the peer group that is doing the retaliating is the more powerful peer group, and the one that the officer wants to stay friendly with at the expense of the outcast, you know, who may be the victim of the comments and jokes and different things. So the officer chooses to say, I'm going to make 8 people happy, so I'm not going to take care of the one person who's being picked on. Okay. And it's not happening at a conscious level. That these are decisions that the officer just says, you know, that person's a pain in the butt, and I'm going to let them, they deserve what they're getting. They deserve the harassment that they're getting. And I'm just going to let them suffer through it.
well, you know, and then there's the, not just the deserve part, but I can't believe you're offended. You kept smiling. You kept laughing. Every time we picked on you, you kept saying, ha, ha, ha. And you would go back at us and you didn't leave, or right. And what people think is, oh, it's just jokes. When that goes in front of a jury and those same words are repeated, and you did this for X years, X months, X whatever, it ain't going to sound like a joke, right? I mean, even in my own department, way long ago, a good friend of mine was just making Jewish jokes to me. And, what do you expect me to do? He's my lieutenant at the time, whatever, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm laughing. And finally it got to the point where I went to our chaplain and said, rather than make this disciplinary, I just wonder if you can intervene. And the guy comes to me and said, I can't believe you were offended. I didn't know. Why didn't you just say something? Like, because I shouldn't have to. And I think that's the point. If you are thinking that somebody will tell you they're offended in front of a bunch of your peers, fat freaking chance. Just cut the jokes. And why is it that firefighters have to watch pornographic crap on TV at the station? We have to tell the dumbest, most offensive jokes. We have to draw phallic symbols on pictures. Why is that level of stupidity reserved for the fire service? Why do we have to do it? Just stop it. You're a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Amen.
That's all I got.